spring flower, not as floral as you would think. Hey YouTube fragrance family, welcome to another Robes 08 fragrance review. Today I'm putting my nose on the House of Creed and one of their women's best sellers called Spring Flower. Let's go. Spring Flower hit the shelves in 1996. Bottle sizes, there's multiples. There's the 1 ounce, there's the 2.5 ounce, which is the one you see here. And then there's a couple flacons here, 8.4 ounce and 17 ounce. Concentration is millésime, of course, but also translates to eau de parfum. And pricing, you're looking at $215 to $780 American. Of course, that's retail. A bottle like this that you see here in front of you, you can find it at discounters for under $200. So shopping around does help for Creed fragrances. This fragrance review is brought to you by FragranceX.com. You can purchase Spring Flower on FragranceX.com utilizing my code ROBES08. Get 15% off on this fragrance and anything else, of course, on the website. The nose behind Spring Flower is none other than Olivier Creed. I'm not going to name his resume because it's a doozy. Olivier pretty much put Creed on the map for fragrances. Notes in Spring Flower, very fruity opening. We have peach, melon, apple, bergamot, and apricot. In the mid, we got some florals here, double dose of jasmine and rose. And in the base, we have musk. Major notes to this nose is jasmine. That is going to be a primary note in Spring Flower, apple, peach, melon, and of course, the musk. Group, this is a fruity floral fragrance. How many sprays and where? Now this is the application for, of course, my wife, and I felt when I was testing this fragrance out on myself, yes, ladies, I was putting this on myself. I actually think this is quite unisex without the whole pink bottle, but let's take a look at my application. Very simple, straightforward. 1 on the chest as I usually do, my first spray of the day, and then I put 2 on the neck, 1 on each side here. Usually it's half sprays. I don't do full sprays with these Creed atomizers. It does push out quite a bit in one area. And then 2 on the arms. So I'm pretty much covered here. So I will do right here. So that is my application. 5 sprays. Again, it's half sprays with these Creed atomizers. Really pushes quite a bit. So 5 sprays is my application. Now the smell itself, a great thing about doing women's fragrance reviews is that I get to smell this on my wife almost daily. This is her signature scent. This is her second bottle. I got this for her for Valentine's Day. She ran out of her last bottle. So a great thing for a fragrance reviewer like myself is that, yes, I will wear it to test it out and kind of dissect the scent, but at the same time, I smell it every freaking day on my wife. So I can find some nuances that I don't capture when I'm wearing it myself. So this introduction of Spring Flower, very much fresh, very uplifting. Those fruits come out from first sniff. Spring Flower brings you a wallop of freshness. That's all it is. It's very fresh. Makes me think of basically running in a field of jasmine flowers with melons and apples cut up on a picnic table nearby. That really what the kind of imagery I'm getting. I'm closer to the fruits and the picnic table than the actual flowers at this point, but the flowers in the background, the jasmine flowers. Now, what immediately hits me is the freshness of Creed scents in the men's aisle. The same type of fresh qualities met here in the opening of Spring Flower. It really brought me to a Millésime, Periale, Rolf, and numerous other men's fragrances that utilize fresh notes. There's a burst of ripe fruit in the opening. The fruit actually lasts fairly long on my skin, which is very surprising, but a welcome addition to Spring Flower, which takes much of the spotlight away from the florals. And quite honestly, I'm not complaining. The fruit here is absolutely great. Very refreshing and a signature in some of Creed fragrances. So very well done. I actually absolutely love this opening as much as my wife does too. I get 2 types of apples in here. It feels like I'm getting the Granny Smith apple with a hint of tartness to it. And other times I smell a crisp red apple. And at times, sometimes I actually smell both. I smell a little bit of tartness up front, and then more it gets to the dry down, it's more of a nice crisp red apple. So It's funny how I'm getting both here. There's some sharp bergamot here. Watermelon is the melon I'm getting in this one, similar to Millésime Impérial, and peaches. Strangely, I get no apricot. There's apricot in the note breakdown. I did not get any apricot, but at times I felt a little fooled because there's a lot of fragrances that I'm smelling recently that have pear in it, and I'm smelling some sort of pear in this fragrance. I don't know where that's coming from, but I really do pinpoint some pear here. Either way, it is basically a bowl of fruits here that I just mentioned. These fruits are backed by a watery backbone. I can almost call it this watery backbone, crisp, bright, very fresh. Many users say this scent is too sweet on their skin, but I feel many fruity florals go way too sweet, almost candied sweet. I felt Spring Flower never gave me that impression. It was actually well composed, never went too sweet on me. The sweetness is very much subdued in this. I felt like the florals kind of balanced this one out very, very well, to be quite honest. And jasmine is very sweet also, but I never felt like it was too sweet. In the dry down of Spring Flower, the jasmine's the star of the show. Jasmine throughout this fragrance, fully rounded with a pinch of musk here. It's a dewy, wet jasmine with a rose complementing it. There's not, with the pink bottle and everything, you'd think, maybe rose is going to be a primary note in this fragrance. I felt it was more jasmine than rose than anything else. Spring Flower has a compound called Hirion. Hirion, which may remind people of the unisex CK1 because there's a wallop of it in the 90s. Hirion was actually first utilized in Eau Sauvage, a men's fragrance. Hirion may remind the user of jasmine or tea, which of course in Spring Flower here, we're getting a wallop of jasmine here. Hirion's effect on scents is to reinforce the diffusion. So it will give it a little more balance. It's going to give it a little more oomph to the fragrance. It's going to give it more freshness, more volume. It's light, it's subtle. It's a green, transparent jasmine note that gives an impression of perfumed air. And that's what I'm getting from Spring Flower. It really has that uplifting but very light, transparent feel to the fragrance, especially throughout in the dry down. The Hirion at times gives Spring Flower a cheapness that people bring up. So people will say that it smells almost synthetic to a fault. I never really went that way. I didn't think that it was going that way, but I can reminisce myself of a CK1, which is very cheap on the market now. Now, the use of Hirion, I don't think it hurts the scent as an overall value to me, but the use of it does indeed bring down the marks a little bit. The opening I felt was much better. I love the fruit cocktail here in Spring Flower. I felt it was very much unisex. The jasmine Hirion use was actually well balanced with the rest of the fragrance, but I can see where people are going to go on the deep end and say, no, I don't like this. It smells kind of cheap to me. There's something about Spring Flower that screams unisex to me, and I know not a lot of reviewers say that. They say that it's strictly feminine. It never went full feminine on me, and I feel even with the pink bottle and the name, this isn't that feminine. Again, I try not to put male, female as far as fragrances go. There's certain notes that will scream feminine to me, not too many. I felt like this one, of course, it fits so well with my wife and her use as a signature scent. I'm gonna let her have this one, of course. I have many to choose from, so this is her scent, and I'm gonna leave it to her as far as this bottle. That's hers. Looking at the recommended age, I really felt that Spring Flower can be for any age. But I feel younger women will gravitate towards this scent. In regards to the Creed lineup, I haven't smelt all the female fragrances from Creed yet, but this one was the one that when we went to New York, this is the one that my wife chose. Fragrances that it reminds me of, again, as far as the women's aisle, I don't have that much experience. I'm getting myself into it a little bit more. Burberry Summer really brought me to this. The openings, the melon, the apple, both used the same way. Obviously, the Creed has a fresher take to it. There's something with it that gives it that oomph. Best time to wear Spring Flower. I think Spring Flower is more of a daily wear scent. You wear it to work, you wear it casually. I don't think this is going to be an evening type scent. I could see it as a signature, though you can wear it all the time, but really a daily workhorse. Seasons. This has spring in the name. and it's fitting. It's definitely a spring scent. I would almost, as far as my percentage goes, you're going to see it on the screen. I'm going to put this at around 70 to 80%, give or take. Mostly spring wearing, summer days, even summer nights. Works very well. Fall and a little pinch of winter here, but really, if it's going to be a signature scent, of course, you're going to wear it every season. Development, is this linear, average, or complex? As you can tell in my review, there wasn't much as far as development goes, right? There's a lot of fruity opening, jasmine hitting on, backbone with some musky ending, a little bit of rose here, but there's not much complexity in this fragrance. It is what it is. There's not much here, and it doesn't move much. So linear is going to be the development. Work appropriate, yes. Be easy on the trigger. Again, I did 5 sprays. You'd probably go 3 sprays at work, and you'd be good to go. Signature scent worthy, yes. My wife wears it every day, and I don't see it being out of place in any situation that she wears it. Now let's get into my rating system. Projection, 8 bottles out of 10. It goes very heavy in the first few hours, right down to moderate, which is contrary to what many website reviews are actually saying on this particular fragrance. I felt like when you first apply this and she wears it in the morning and she doesn't go heavy on the sprayer, it engulfs the actual vehicle, and she wears like 3 sprays at most, 2 sprays sometimes. So it really is, it does give you a lot of projection off the bat, and then it just dies down to a moderate, not a skin scent, but a moderate scent. So it has fairly good projection. Longevity, 7 bottles out of 10, 5 to 8 hours with this fragrance. At times I wore this at night to test it out, and early mornings I could still smell it. So it did sometimes pass that 8-hour barrier, but 5 to 8 hours is mostly what my wife and myself are getting out of this one. The compliment factor for Spring Flower, again, my wife's signature scent. I'm with her most of the time. This is her signature scent for a reason. 8 bottles out of 10. This thing does get noticed quite a bit. So actually the compliment factor is fairly high. Uniqueness, 7 bottles out of 10. I really felt that it has that unique Creed DNA that no other fragrance house can really do. But as a fragrance as a whole, as far as going from point A to point Z, it's, as a fragrance, it's not that unique, right? The jasmine and the fruits up top, a fruity floral is a fruity floral. This is not a candied one, which I like that it has that Creed DNA that doesn't make it too juvenile, but it still has some playfulness to it. Pricing versus what you get. Well, with Creed, it's always a downfall when you're looking at pricing, you know, $200 right up to $800. This was a pricey juice. I'm going to give it 7 bottles out of 10. It's very solid for the price. Not the best bang for your buck. I still think that you can get much better for that type of pricing. Again, it's all about your personal taste. My wife thinks this is worth it. It's her signature scent. So as a signature scent, I think it's very much worth to get a bottle. Versatility, 8 bottles out of 10. Again, she wears it as a signature scent, and I could see that for anybody out there. So 8 bottles out of 10, a fairly high versatility on this one. Smell, 8 bottles out of 10, very solid for Creed. And that goes to an overall score with everything put together. 8 bottles out of 10 for Spring Flower. Even though it's my wife's signature scent, I absolutely love it on her. You know, it doesn't automatically say that I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. It's overall just a solid, very solid Creed release, and for the right person, it will work wonders. But I can see a lot of downfalls with this particular fragrance. And that goes to buy, try, or pass. This is, like I said, if it hits the right person the right way, like my wife, this is an absolute buy. If you absolutely love it, you're not going to have any complaints with Spring Flower. And I say this is a recommended buy from me. Overall, there's not much to add here. Spring Flower, solid release from Creed. It has its downfalls. However, I felt this was one Creed that could fit somebody's style very, very well. Again, signature scent, and that's what you're looking for, especially for that price range. If you don't have too many fragrances, you're looking for a signature scent, this can be one of those that you'll be happily to pay the price because you're going to be wearing it every day. So that is one of those fragrances that I think overall a very solid composition from Creed. So thank you for watching my review on Spring Flower. If you wish to see this presentation in depth, hang on, stick around, and I will have it at the end of the fragrance review. And please remember, a great or poor fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your scent wisely. Thanks for watching. Now, as for presentation, let's take a look at the box. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail. You've seen one Creed box, you've seen them all. So there's, of course, Millisim in the back here, info at the bottom. It does come with the card, well, at least mine did, and of course the history of Creed. Let's take a look at the bottle itself. Now, looking at the bottle in detail, again, a pink bottle with gold writing, Creed, of course, embossed here. Spring flower. You got different purplish looking logo on the cap itself. You have, of course, some detail at the bottom here with the batch code. If I take the cap off, this is actually the new version. So this is actually the first bottle in my whole Creed collection that actually has the new atomizer here. So it looks like this. And the atomizers for Creed, of course, are always very solid.